disappointment was there, William Miller, at the last, it's like it was hard for him. Because he felt that he had led these people astray eventually. It was very, very difficult. Very difficult. But it was a bitter disappointment. What I'm making, it was a bitter disappointment. Do you know? And then when the disappointment happened, a lot of the church members who were preaching that Jesus was coming and they're part of it, they jumped up and said, "We never really believe it. I was just following them to see what they were doing." And they went away. And some said, "No, sir. No. And they went away. And some said, "Yes, it's coming for true, but it's not now. It's 2 years, and then 3. And they kept setting dates over and over again. And then one group, just about 50 people, approximately, it is approximated. Just about 50 people. Look back and say, "No man, something is wrong. And it can't be with God. It must be with us." So let us look back at our part. What have we done wrong? And they humble themselves. I know the story. I can't go through all of that. William Iron Medicine, division, and whatever. But they realized that when they look at some way, where did we get this idea from? That the sanctuary is the earth. Meaning that the cleansing of the sanctuary is the kingdom. Where did it come from? The cleansing of the sanctuary is the cleansing of the earth. I said, where did it come from? When I searched the Bible, I said, "But wait, it's not Bible something, it's just tradition." And then they began to study and they saw how Hebrews 8:1 and to 5 and Hebrews 9:22 and so on, how it spoke of the sanctuary which the Lord pitched on the man. And their minds were turned away from the earthly sanctuary to the heavenly. And they realized now that the bitter disappointment, Jesus was not coming at all to earth at that time as they thought. But he did in fact make a coming. Having moved from the holy place to the most holy place, from the first phase of the ministry to the other phase. And that was a great thing that we did. But they were bitter and disappointed. The disappointment was bitter because they were looking forward to him to come. He didn't come. And most of them gave up their faith. And only a few, just about 50, it is approximated, remain. And the question is now, what happened to the big crowd and what happened to the 50? You understand the answer? Is there no? Well, it's a similar thing that happened with the disciples. Isaiah had made it very clear that the Messiah would come and die for sins. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes were healed. Isaiah made it very clear. Daniel had predicted in the same Daniel 9 the specific time, so much so, remember when Jesus was born, about the time, they went to the people to inquire about what time, because that means there was something going on among some of the leaders, that based on the prophecy, Jesus was to be born soon in the Messiah. And when the Bible says, in the fullness of the time, yes, there was a time there. And then when John preached and said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, all of those things was based on the Daniel prophecy. So they had a good view of the prophecy, but there was a part of it that was very clear in the text, but they did not see it. Apparently, they mixed up the first coming of Jesus with the second coming. And what they expected Messiah to do in the second coming, that's what they wanted him to do in the first coming. So they couldn't understand. And that is what caused the disappointment. They were giving the message, the same disciples were preaching, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." That's what they were preaching, and it was the right message. But how they understood kingdom of heaven at hand was that Jesus would destroy the Romans, establish his kingdom, and that would be the kingdom of heaven. So though the message was right, their understanding of it was shaky. And the same thing happened with our people. The message was right. October 20, 1844, the sanctuary will be cleansed. The hour of his judgment is come. Right message. But what was the sanctuary and what was the event? And remember, I want to direct you to one thing before I go back to Brother Anderson. Let's go back to Revelation 10. I'm going to show you something, you know. Revelation 10, read for me again, verses 3 and 4. Revelation 10, 3 and 4. Somebody read verses 3 and 4. I want to know a female member of Mount Edgecombe Church. You read from Revelation 10, verses 3 and 4. Very interesting. What did the seventh thunder say? What did the seventh thunder say? The seventh thunder said something, and John understood what they said. He was about to write what they said, and the voice said, "Don't write it." What do you think the seventh thunder said? Anyone? Do you know that Ellen White says that the seven thunders gave a little description of events that were to transpire connected to the disappointment? That's what the seven thunders said. No? The seven thunders were saying that there was going to be a bitter disappointment, something connected with the judgment scene at that time. And John was writing it. But God decided not to put that in the text, because when he put it there, there would not have been a disappointment. And the disappointment was to serve as a sifting activity. Because he was going now for his last to establish the last day remnant church. And he was doing a sifting work. So God put his hand over that part of the text and covered it. So even though they were preaching the true message, they didn't understand it correctly. So the disappointment occurred, and many of them left the church, leaving approximately 50. And after the 50 were left, no. Look what happened now. Verse 11. Verse 11. Look what happened now. Look what happened now. Who will read verse 11? Revelation 10, verse 11. This is crucial. This is the commission again. Notice how close it resembles Matthew 28. 18, 19, and 20. Read it for me, please. Revelation 10, verse 11.
And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many people, and nation, and tongue, and king.
Okay. So, to the few that were left, the commission says, Thou must prophesy again to all of these people. The very similar to what happened in the disciples. When Jesus died and they were disappointed, many of them are gone. Jesus said to the few, your work is just starting. When this disappointment happened and a few remained, I said to them, you know have great work to do. And this was the beginning. Revelation 10 is the beginning of the Adventist church. The commission was so. What a joy it is to know that our church, the beginnings of our church, is identified in the prophecy. This is interesting, you know. God's remnant church is traced, the origin or the genesis of God's remnant church is traced in the scriptures, in the prophetic word. That's why when we sing the song, some of you don't know the genesis of the song. When we sing and say, have you heard of the Advent church? How she is moving according to prophecy. You know the song? The reason for that song is that the Advent church started out of prophecy. It began out of prophecy, it has been going on because of prophecy, and it will continue based on prophecy. So it's not a church walking in darkness.
So Pastor, our church could not start before 1790.
No, so the God's remnant church couldn't have started before that time.
No.
So if there was a church existent at that time, it is not the last day remnant church. Yes, it has to be. This is very specific and it's very clear. It's very clear. So this is what Jesus said through the angel to the church then, and these are my words to you. Thou must prophesy again before many nations and peoples and tongues and kings. So all of us have another mission, further mission to do. We have to reach everybody around us. This is a mission given to the 50 people also that have expanded now these 50 into a large church. I say 18 million, but that wasn't no matter to us because the world population is much bigger. So the point is, we have a work to do to prophesy before many peoples, nations, tongues, kings. So Revelation 10 closes the commission, just as our Matthew 28 closes the commission. Revelation 10:11 closes right after the disappointment, just as our Matthew 28 closes right after the disciples were disappointed because of the death of Jesus. This closes right after the people were disappointed because of Jesus not coming to earth.
It's even Pastor that those guys who did the verses and the chapters, they kind of skip a little bit because Revelation 11:1 it will be a continuation of 10:11. It says, mention the temple again, check worship. It's a continuation of that same.
Yes. You know, that's a crucial point. You know that there are lines of prophecy in the scriptures, you know, that, alright, let me explain something to you first. The Bible as we have it, now there has been a lot of controversy about the Bible. And people saying all sorts of strange things. The Bible the Bible cannot be more reliable than it is. It is as reliable as you can find a book in the world. Very reliable. You don't have to worry. Sometimes people come on TV and talk foolishness about the Bible and how many errors and it mix up and you can't understand what. This is a very God has protected the Bible through these years. And he had to do it. Because you can't have a God who says to his people, live this way. And if you don't live this way, you're going to be in hell. And then after you give command to live this way, the people can't know the way for the Bible. Erroneous. That God would be unjust and irresponsible. So the very fact that God has given words for us to live by bound God to make sure that the Bible remains reliable. It bound him. So God could not have allowed the Bible to be unreliable. He couldn't do it. Because had he done it, he could blame nobody for what they would live, what they would believe. And he would have to carry everybody. he would be responsible for all. So that is ridiculous. However, when the Bible was written, it was not written with verses and chapters. It wasn't divided. So those divisions came in long afterward. So where you see that chapter stops, or a verse, it doesn't mean that you have to stop there. If you realize in the spirit that it should be linked somewhere else, you can read on and link it where you want to link it. I just recognize it because the men who did this were doing an excellent work. Because believe me, if they didn't do this, brother, when you get over Galaman, please find the part in the Bible that says Jeremiah lamented and he was in prison. Yes, you have to, you know what I'm saying? But then you can say, please turn to Revelation 10 verse 2. Very good, it was an inspired work. No, when I say inspired, God led in it. But, you know, human beings, they can't be perfect. Can't be perfect. So, although they did their best and they did a good work, some of the times where the chapters should stop, they stop it before. Or where the chapters should, and things like those. So the spirit of, that's why when you look at Revelation 13, for example, the persecution of the saints and the mark of the beast and so on. When you go to Revelation 14, you realize that Revelation 14 is a part of that. Revelation 14, 1 to 5, it's a part of the same thing. So Revelation 10 continues over. So you can know what times this is like that. Yes. Yes. But they're divided for purpose. So when we read, the Spirit should guide us to look and say, okay, maybe this one continues for another 2 or 3 verses. Nothing wrong with that because the divisions were placed there for our own reason. Yes, now. Just keep, yeah, one story read on.
And that is more in evidence when we look into the various like English subtopics.
Yes.
Sometimes they are different. First marriage is given in this one. In another Bible, let me take the story of a verse or two of both or people.
Yes.
So the thing is, read on in one story.
Yes. And since we're on that, I'm going to divert on this, but I think I need to say this. Since that so many people have so many concerns about the Bible. And worse because sometimes when the people who come on TV and talk are people who some of us respect. But they don't really know what they say. They don't know what they say. They don't know what they say. Because, but you know, brother, so right now, you will have a King James version. And you know another version that when you read, you will see verses that you don't see in King James. Not many, but one or two. And King James may carry a few that you don't find in the others. There's a simple reason for that, you know. In the Bible times, there was not a standard factory that printed for the disciples. You know. The words were spoken, and then after the words were spoken, men of God gathered the words and wrote. But they wrote as they were directed by the Spirit. They didn't just write on their own. But when some of them wrote, there came times when people now had to make copies of them. And they didn't have any press to just photocopy and print. So they sat down and wrote, and for a man to sit down and write all of these words, and you don't skip out one or two letters. It is, let me put it this way. Once human beings touch anything, it can't be perfect again. Once we have anything to do with it, it can't be perfect again. And so in the transcribing and so on coming down over the years, hundreds of transcriptions and so on. And there came times when some of the words were letters mixed up and all those things and all those things. So those things have happened in the past. But interestingly, you would have some manuscripts, and then the people from King James chose to copy from these manuscripts. And you have some Arab manuscripts and some people copy from those manuscripts. But with all of that, you look at it and almost all the fact the thing is just still there, right? It's a miracle. Studies have shown that there's no other book in history that have had this kind of wide variation of transcription and have remained so accurate. Yeah, so let me tell you something, brother. If you take up a Bible and you read something in it that looks like foolishness, that cannot discredit the Bible, you know. The Bible is so reliable and solid. All you have to do is just say, okay, something wrong with me. I don't get this as yet. But by God's grace, later on I'll get it. Because believe me, if something is wrong, it is not in the Bible. It will be with us. Because even if men slip and put in a letter or so, it cannot affect the God has preserved the accuracy of the truth throughout history. Alright, so just bear that in mind. I'm going to take Brother Anderson and come on to you. Yes.
Verse 11 of chapter 11, the Revelation, that commission that was reiterated was a clear indication that something was wrong. Let's say the disciples back there, the Millerites back to us. So what it says, and we are reading that it was a tool of safety that the Lord released from them to allow people to see where they are. Many of them were on board for selfish reasons.
Yes.
You know? But and so it is when we are reading scripture now, and this will get to the problem of stopping where the church stops. Is that we must be guided by the Holy Spirit. All revelation from scripture must come by the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And if so, the word must be accurate, the word must be credible. And I understand many school of thoughts when it comes to different versions of the Bible. But if we know where our Bible is we will see God clearly working or God clearly not working. The version of Bible that we know as the King James Authorized Version of 1611. It did just come about because some men gathered, but it was a series of action, and we see God intervening. Like the manuscript from which was chosen, it came straight of Antioch. All the other manuscripts that from the other different versions came out of Alexandria. And we can look at that and see what it means. Also,
well, some people say the Alexandria one, the actual one, so
when
inspiration choosing.
Look at what is there. Because if I can take up a Bible and there is some disparity between the verses in one section and one in the other, the word is not credible. And God is not the author of confusion.
But I don't agree with that word.
I wish I had, especially, a simple example would be how in 2 Samuel, how the dimension of the place was described, or Solomon's horses and stored with horses. You know, only the King James Version of the Bible has it correct, and the rest is error. You know, and there cannot be no error.
But Elder, but I'm just hold on. I'm going with you can't talk very long because so we're going to give that specific thing. So take about 30 seconds and not that.
Right. So because we have moved into this mind frame of being educated, we have adopted the notion that let us get all these versions and get the best. God is clear when He speaks, and is amplified by His Spirit. You know, this practice we have of many versions, right? It only causes confusion, and we have no basis to say the word is credible if we continue that life. If I'm given an opportunity, I'll share more. I'll show in